Hi there, and welcome back to our video lesson, which was specifically organized for the distance learners of economics field. Today we will talk about production costs. My name is Kahor Vanigina. I'm an English teacher of Kasha State Technical University, and so let's get our lesson started. Before starting, let's take a look at today's lesson's objectives. So by the end, we'll be able to define and explain the core concept of production costs, understand their role in business. And also we will review with interactive tasks, engaging with audio exercises and interactive activities designed to reinforce understanding and retention of key economic principles. And also we will practice past perfect continuous tense. Dear students, as you can see, the sequence of our lesson has already become a tradition. First, you should answer the following questions. So, why are some products inherently more expensive than others in the market? Second question, what are the primary costs of bakery incurs when producing a loaf of bread? And the third question, how does an increase in electricity prices affect the overall costs of products? All right, and now let's talk about what production costs are. So, production costs are all the expenses a company pays to make and deliver a product to customers. Many people think only about raw materials and worker salaries, but production costs are much wider than that. They include rent, electricity, packaging, transport, office salaries, advertising, and even product design. For example, if a company makes bicycles, the steel, tires, and wages of factory workers are obvious costs. But the company also pays for the warehouse, accountant salaries, delivery trucks, and marketing. All of these are production costs. And there is an important difference between manufacturing cost and production cost. Manufacturing costs only include expenses inside the factory. For example, raw materials, machine electricity, workers' wages, factory supervision. Production costs include manufacturing costs plus outside business costs such as sales team salaries, advertising, office rent, research and development. So manufacturing costs is smaller while production costs give the full picture. So now let's talk about the main types of production costs. So first type is fixed costs. These costs stay the same even the production changes. For example, factory rent, insurance, and manager's salary. If you produce 10 bicycles or 1,000 bicycles, rent stays the same. Second one, variable costs. These costs change when production changes. And for example, steel, packaging, delivery fuel, hourly labor. If you produce more bicycle, you need more materials. The third one, average cost. This means cost per unit. And the formula is total cost plus number of products. For example, if total monthly cost is $80,000 and company makes 400 bicycles, then we should divide $80,000 by 400 and it equals to $200 per bicycle. The fourth one is marginal cost. This is the cost of making one extra unit. If making 100 more bicycles costs $15,000, then $15,000 is divided by 100 and it equals to $150 each extra bicycle. This is useful because if selling price is higher than $150, producing more can be profitable. And one of the important questions, why production costs matter. Tracking production costs helps companies set the right selling price, avoid losses, improve profits, and control waste. Make smart business decisions. For example, if a bakery only counts flour and sugar costs but ignores rent and electricity, it may sell cakes too cheaply and lose money. And how to reduce production costs? First, reduce waste. Use materials carefully. For example, a furniture company can cut wood more efficiently and waste less timber. Secondly, improve processes. Save time and energy. For example, if workers walk too far between machines, rearranging equipment saves time. Thirdly, track real costs. Use real data, not guesses. For example, if fuel prices rise, delivery costs also rise. Company must update prices quickly. Next, what should be done is cutting unnecessary overhead. Too many approvals or meetings waste money. As an example, 5 managers approving a small purchase slows work and increases hidden cost. And fifth is use software. Modern ERP systems help companies track materials, labor, inventory, and profit in real time. Production cost is not only what happens in the factory, it's everything required to bring a product to the customer. Companies that understand their real costs can price correctly, protect profits, and grow successfully. And now, in order to check your comprehension, let's do a true and false exercise where you should read the statements and decide if they are true or not. So you'll be given 30 seconds, but you may take more extra time to think by pressing pause. And after 30 seconds, we'll be back to discuss the answers. All right, if you have finished, let's check the answers. So the first one, it's false. Fixed costs usually stay the same when output increases. The second one is true. Variable costs rise or fall with production level. The third one is false. Total cost includes fixed costs and variable costs. Fourth one is true. Marginal cost means the cost of one extra unit. Fifth one is true. Rent is normally a fixed cost. The sixth one is also true. Higher production costs may lead to higher prices. Seventh one is true. Average cost shows the cost per unit. And the last one, eighth one, is false. Companies use production costs when setting prices. Now let me drive your attention to the next exercise where we should match the terms with their definitions. And just as before, you'll be given 30 seconds and you may longer it by pressing pause. And after 30 seconds, we will check the answers together. So see you soon after 30 seconds. All right, dear students, I hope you managed to finish the task. If so, let's check them. So the first one, fixed costs. These are costs that remain constant regardless of output. B. Variable costs. These are costs that change with production. C. Total cost. This is the sum of fixed and variable costs. D1. Average cost. This is cost per unit of production. E1. Marginal cost. This is cost of producing one additional unit. F1. Profit. This is total income minus total expenses. G1. Revenue. Income received from selling goods or services. And the last one, depreciation. This is gradual reduction in value of equipment. Well done, dear students, and now we are going to do some listening task. So we are going to listen to the audio and match the sentences beginning with their correct endings to form complete statements about production costs.
Unit 9. Listening. Listen and match the halves. Good morning, everyone. Today we'll discuss production costs, a key concept in economics that helps firms set prices and maximize profit. Production costs include all expenses of producing goods or services. There are two main types, fixed costs and variable costs. Fixed costs do not change with output, such as rent and insurance. Variable costs increase as production increases, like raw materials and electricity. Fixed and variable costs together make up total cost. Average cost is total cost divided by quantity. It shows cost per unit. Marginal cost is the cost of producing one additional unit. Firms compare marginal cost with marginal revenue. If cost is higher, they reduce it. Inflation can increase production costs, while technology can reduce them. In competitive markets, managing production costs is essential for survival and profitability.
All right, if you finished, let's check the answers. So, first, production costs are important because they help firms set prices and maximize profit. Production costs include all expenses of producing goods or services. There are two main types of costs, fixed costs and variable costs. Fixed costs are expenses that do not change with output. Variable costs increase when production increases. Fixed and variable costs together make up total cost. Average cost is calculated by dividing total cost by quantity produced. Marginal cost refers to the cost of producing one additional unit. Firms increase production if marginal revenue is higher than marginal cost. In competitive markets, managing production costs is essential for survival and profitability. Stay loyal to our lesson traditions. Now we are going to talk about a grammar topic, and today's topic will be the past perfect continuous tense. So this tense is used to describe an action that had been continuing for some time before another action happened in the past. It shows duration and background activity. The structure of this tense is subject plus had been plus verb and ing. For example, I had been studying before an exam started. She had been waiting for 1 hour when the bus arrived. They had been working all day before they went home. We often use this tense with time expressions such as for, since, all day, for 2 hours, before, when. For example, he had been sleeping for 3 hours before I called him. We had been living there since 2020 before we moved away. This tense helps us explain the reason for something in the past. For example, she was tired because she had been running. The ground was wet because it had been raining. The past perfect continuous is useful when we want to show that one past action continued until another past event happened. In conclusion, we use the past perfect continuous to talk about actions that were in progress before another moment in the past. It's very useful for storytelling and describing past situations. Well done, dear students. Now it's time to do some activity in order to check your comprehension. So we should fill in the blanks using the past perfect continuous tense. And after 30 seconds, we will check the answers. So the answers are: she was tired because she had been running for an hour. They had been waiting at the station before the train finally arrived. I had been studying for 2 hours when my friend called. The ground was wet because it had been raining all night. Hugh had been working at the company for 5 years before he quit. We had been traveling for several hours before we found a place to rest. Seventh one, the children had been playing in the garden before it got dark. Eighth one, she had been cooking dinner when the guests showed up early. I hadn't been sleeping well because the neighbors had been making noise. They had been arguing for days before they finally resolved the issue. Well done, everyone. So, in order to review all the knowledge we gained today, let's watch some additional video. Have a good watching.
Shut down factories even when demand exists. Why does a product suddenly become more expensive as sales increase? And how do businesses know when they're actually making a profit? Today, we're diving deep into the brain of every business: production, cost, and revenue analysis, the science behind every decision a producer makes. Welcome back to the Learning Studio, your home for animated, easy-to-grasp economics. This is episode 6 in our Fundamentals and Core Concepts series, and trust me, this topic is the secret behind pricing, profit, and productivity. Full economics playlist? You know where it is, in the video description below. Let's start with production. What is production in economics? Production is the process of converting inputs like land, labor, capital into outputs, goods, or services. There are 3 stages in the short run: increasing returns, output grows faster than inputs; diminishing returns, output still increases but slower; negative returns, too many inputs reduce output. Example: adding more workers in a small kitchen might help at first, but eventually it just gets crowded and chaotic. Next, cost analysis. There are 2 main types of costs: fixed costs. These don't change with output. Example: rent, salaries, insurance. Variable costs, VC. These change with production. Example: raw materials, electricity, packaging. Total cost equals fixed cost, variable cost. Then we get average cost, AC, equals total cost output. Marginal cost, MC, equals cost of producing one more unit. Why does MC matter? Because it tells the business whether making one more product is worth it. Now, let's talk revenue. Revenue is how much money a business earns. Total revenue, TR, equals price, quantity sold. Average revenue equals TR quantity. Marginal revenue equals extra revenue from selling one more unit. The golden rule for producers: profit is maximized when marginal cost equals marginal revenue. Bringing it all together. Businesses don't guess prices. They analyze costs and revenues to decide how much to produce, at what price to sell, when to expand or shut down. Example: A bakery that knows its MC and MR can decide whether to bake 100 or 500 cupcakes a day and how much to charge to stay profitable. Famous quote, "If you can't measure it, you can't manage it." Peter Drucker. That's what cost and revenue analysis is all about, measuring smartly to manage profitably. Why this topic matters. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, an econ student, or just love understanding how things work, this concept is the engine of every business decision. Coming up next, get ready for our next episode, Market Structures, Perfect Competition to Monopoly. We'll explore how markets are organized and how businesses behave in each one. Be sure to subscribe, tap the bell, and explore the full economics playlist below. This is the Learning Studio, making economics animated, simplified, and unforgettable.
So we've already come to the last part of our video lesson, your home task. So in this homework, you need to imagine that you are starting your own small business. First, choose one type of business. For example, you can choose a coffee shop, bakery, clothing store, restaurant, or any other small business you like. Second, you need to identify the costs of your business. There are two types of costs, fixed costs and variable costs. Fixed costs are expenses that stay the same every month, such as rent, salaries, insurance, or equipment payments, and variable costs change depending on production. Examples are raw materials, packaging, electricity use, and transportation. And third, you need to calculate the total cost. Use imaginary but realistic numbers. For example, write how much you pay for rent, materials, salaries, and other expenses. Then add them together to find your total production cost. And fourth, you need to use grammar. Write 5 sentences in the past perfect continuous tense. These sentences should describe the history of your business or problems before the present time. For example, we had been preparing the shop before the opening day. And finally, explain how you would reduce costs to make more profit. For example, you can buy materials in bulk, reduce waste, save energy, or find cheaper suppliers. Your word limit is 200 to 250 words, and you should be ready to present it in the next lesson. Thank you, my dear students. See you next lesson. Goodbye.